Welcome back, guys. Well, today I'm here at the cabin and I'm here during an early spring nasty storm. We're supposed to get quite a lot of snow, possibly up to 20 centimeters, plus some freezing rain on top of that. So I'm here at the cabin enjoying myself. I've been here for a few days and I thought I'd do a video on this dreary day about assumptions about the cabin. There are some videos going around on YouTube, assumptions about me. Well, I thought I would do a video called Assumptions About the Cabin. Stay tuned. So on my cabin videos, I get quite a lot of comments, which I love. Thank you guys so much for your input and your experience and telling me what your thoughts are. But I wanted to clear the air. You know, there are some assumptions about the cabin that are out there and about everything about it. So I want to talk to you about the top 5 assumptions that I read about all the time in the comments, and I wanted to clarify for you. One assumption I think came from my regrets video that I did on the cabin. If you haven't seen that, I'll put the link above here and you'll take a look at it. But one of the biggest assumptions I think from that video was that I really disliked the cabin and that, you know, why don't I just tear it down and start over or put up a trailer or something like that. Those are the kind of comments I was getting occasionally. And don't get me wrong, you know, that video wasn't really intended to say that the cabin was garbage and, you know, needed to be leveled and to start over again. That was not the goal of that video. It was just to kind of, I think it's important to kind of reflect on things you've done, in cabin builds and builds in general, and just sort of say, geez, what would I have done differently, you know? And so that was the idea of that video. I love the cabin. Sure, I really wish, I could go back and change some things, but you know, the cabin is still quite young and, moldable, and we can kind of adapt to what we have. And, you know, quite honestly, at the very beginning of the build, I really had no intention of staying here at all year round, let alone in this kind of weather. So, it would have been nice to sort of budget for a wood stove in terms of space and stuff like that. But you know what? It just led to innovation and sort of, how do you work with what you have and how to make it better and better. So, don't assume that I don't like the cabin. I want to completely tear it down and I just want to live in a giant house. That's not at all what I meant by that video, and I'm sorry if I gave people that impression. But I was just looking back and thinking about things that I could do a little bit differently. So I love the cabin, and I look forward to molding it into an ever-changing structure to suit our needs. Another common misconception or assumption is that the shower house or bathroom house is really far from the cabin. And why on earth would I put it so far away from the cabin? Well, I can assure you it's not actually that far. Let's take a look. So as I'm standing on the porch, it's right there. It's not very far at all. Actually walking out here, it's only 40 paces from the main cabin if you're walking at a reasonable pace. So honestly, it's really not that far and not that big of an inconvenience. So here it is, a nice little jaunt, not too far from the cabin at all. Right now I've got the sled and a couple of my chairs piled up under there so they don't get completely covered in the snow from this storm. But honestly, it isn't that far. Voila, here we go. And from this view, there's the cabin. So yeah, if you're used to the modern conveniences of just walking down the hall into the bathroom, then yeah, it seems pretty far, but honestly, it's not that far at all. And I like having it separate, and a lot of people wondered why we did that. And one of the main reasons is, if something was to happen in the cabin, I don't know, God forbid a tree falls on it, or, we have a fire or something in there and there's some smoke damage and or whatnot, at least we have another place to go to in the middle of the night. If there's a problem and we can get warm, we can put up the kerosene heater in there. So it is another place to go in the event of an emergency. So that's a reason why we made them separate. I love hanging out in this region of Ontario. It is awesome. If you're an outdoors lover, like, all seasons are awesome. There's lots of stuff to do. And I'm really happy that we had a bit of a more traditional winter this year in some ways, because that means you can get out and do more snowmobiling and ice fishing and things like that. So we also get summers that are pretty warm. Our summers, last year we were up to 38 Celsius with the Humidex for the better part of a month, which I didn't like that part, but we do have quite the extreme here. So, but it means that you can enjoy all seasons. Another assumption that I get all the time in the comments is that, we're pretty far north. Well, I live in Ontario, but I don't live in Northern Ontario. You might get that impression just because where we are, we get a tremendous amount of snow. You know, this winter we received in excess of 8 feet since October. So, you know, you might get that impression, you know, the farther north you go, the more snow there is, but that's not always the case. Also, you know, we do have a lot of coniferous forest here too, which makes it look really north. So no, I don't live, you know, near the tundra or something like that. I do live in Ontario, but I'm in an area where we get a tremendous amount of snow and cold. You know, we can get down to -35, -45 with the wind chill, and we did this year as well. It was a really rough winter, and we also get a lot of snow. But that is an assumption. I don't live really far north. So I have a propane setup for heating here at the cabin, which I love. And one of the assumptions is that how can I be off-grid if I have propane? You're not truly off-grid. So the term off-grid to me means that you're not really reliant on, you know, the power grid, as it were. I mean, some people, you know, use all, you know, parts of the grid. Like, you want to be self-sufficient on the environment completely to be off-grid. And, you know, yeah, that is a definition of it, but a lot of times it's used to discuss a situation where someone's not reliable on, you know, hydro power, basically. So I don't have any power at the cabin. I don't have any source of water other than the river or bringing water in. I do have propane to heat, but I know a lot of off-gridders that have propane in some way, shape, or form, either to, you know, use a grill or as a backup heat source, you know, for like a wood stove or something like that, or to have like a little propane fridge. So I don't think it means exclusively, well, it doesn't to me, because I have propane, that, you know, I'm not truly off-grid. If my propane ran out and didn't have access to it, I have a huge forest that surrounds me, and I would, you know, figure out something. I would make a kind of a wood stove, or, you know, some kind of a stove outside that would maybe heat a water coil, and I would run the pipes through the house to heat it up. I'd figure something out, you know, so I'm not completely reliant on this propane here. I consider myself off-grid. There's also an assumption that I've seen a lot in my comments that you can't truly be off-grid if you need to follow rules and regulations of the municipality where your off-grid cabin is located, and that's not true. You know, I'm in the province of Ontario, and there are rules and regulations everywhere you go. Unfortunately, you can't just sort of set up any kind of camp or whatnot, you know, without some kind of regulations in some way, shape, or form affecting your life. So, you know, for example, regulations, there's quite a few regulations in the municipality that I'm at, even though it is semi-remote. You know, there were building regulations, size regulations in terms of what kind of a cabin I could build. Especially, you know, this is registered as a hunt camp, fish camp, so there are rules and regulations in regard to that. The other regulations I abide by are fire regulations. So right now, basically April to October, there's a daytime burn ban unless you're cooking. So I can't just sort of, you know, clean up my woods and put a pile of sticks out during the day and set it on fire. That's not allowed. I have to have a burn permit, and that goes for everybody in this semi-remote area. And why is that? I mean, there's reasons for things, reasons for rules, I guess. And the reason is that, you know, we are prone to forest fires, and we have a field around us, and there have been grass fires in the area. And because of the location, it's very challenging to get firefighters here to put out fires, especially in time. And quite often, if a structure was to burn here, it's, you know, it's not like living in the city right next to a fire hydrant. There are no fire hydrants out here. Water bombers would come in, or there would be someone pumping from the local river to try and save the structure, which, you know, good luck with that. So anyways, part of it is too that if, you know, I was to start a fire, you know, and not have a permit and cause a tremendous amount of damage, I'm on the hook for, I believe it's like $1,000 an hour for firefighters to come in. So, yeah, it's, and you know, there's so much forest around here, I would be going for hours. So, you know, you got to follow rules. There's rules for reasons, you know. Of course, out here, you know, you know, who's going to check in on you. So it's really up to you whether you, you know, you follow the rules and regs. If you get found out, I guess you can beg for forgiveness, or you might be fined or have a tear down order. Biggest assumption that there's no rules and regulations when you're off-grid, and that's false. There are. And one final thought, another one I just thought of actually, so we'll go with a sixth assumption, is that I live here off-grid full-time. Now certainly I would love to do that. Right now it's not possible for me to do that, so I come here and I kind of develop the property, develop some skills, and in hopes of one day, hopefully one day soon, living here full-time. But unfortunately that's not the case right now, and I know some of you assume that I do live here full-time, but I don't. Thanks so much for watching the video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope it clears the air in regard to a few issues regarding the cabin. So I hope you have a wonderful week as always. Take care.